All right, everyone. Today I want to talk about a very important item that you want to make sure that you start getting every single day if you haven't already. And this item is not just going to be useful to unlock a whole bunch of stuff that's going to be incredibly good for your account progression, but it also has the potential to make you quite a bit of gold as well. Of course, I'm talking about this key in the center of my inventory, this Garden of Despair key. And what this does is it allows you to access a little mini dungeon on an island, and going through this mini dungeon is going to end up getting you a currency item that you can use at a vendor to get all sorts of really useful stuff. And I'll go over the vendor as well as the stuff that you want to focus on, but I'm getting a bit far ahead of myself because this island in particular and this mini dungeon in particular, there's a couple of tricky things about it. Now, I'm actually placed right at the NPC that has the daily. I'm going to head there, but I also want to mention some very, very important things about this island and the mini dungeon. So the island in particular is called Anguished Island, by the way, and I'll show you guys on the world map where it is. And one of the tricky things about this island is if you actually hover over it, just like a couple of the other islands that I've talked about, if you take a look at the recommended item level, you'll actually see, and I'll open up the map so you can get a better idea here. If we take a look at Anguished Island right here, you'll see it says recommended item level reached 1100. Now, let me say something very important. This is technically, it is a tier 3 island, and you'll actually notice the monsters here are a bit tougher. They do a bit more damage. They have more HP. So it is a tier 3 island. However, you can start part of this island at tier 2. You cannot complete this island at tier 2, but the important parts you can start in tier 2, and that's what you want to do. Even though you might not be tier 3, don't worry about that. It's the ability to actually end up getting this key that you can start doing in tier 2, and that's the most important part. You won't be able to actually access the mini dungeon, but you'll still be able to end up racking up those keys, and it's the key that's the important ingredient to actually enter this mini dungeon. The mini dungeon is just a little thing that doesn't take very long, and as long as you are accumulating these keys, once you actually end up getting to tier 3 and you unlock kind of like the second part of the island and you can access the other stuff, at that point you'll have all these keys saved up. You'll be able to run the mini dungeon multiple times. You'll get a bunch of this currency to unlock this vendor and be able to buy a whole bunch of stuff right off the get-go. So the name of this island, of course, is Anguished Island, and let me zoom out a bit further so you guys can get a better sense of where it is on the world map. And if you take a look, it is actually near Punica because, again, it is technically a tier 3 island. It's just an island that you want to start working on tier 2. So there's the location of it right there. And this is going to be the location of the actual NPC that has the daily. Now, one thing that I will say very importantly about this daily is if you actually haven't gone to this island yet, there's going to be a bit of a mini quest line that you have to do first. It's not that bad, but it does require you to kill a few monsters around this island, and this is technically a tier 3 island. If you're struggling a little bit, you can always channel swap and just tag mobs from people. It's really not too bad. It shouldn't be too bad. It might take you a few extra minutes here and there, and I'd say it's a quest chain that takes like 10 minutes. It's not instantaneous. It's not as fast as some of the other islands that I've talked about, but another good thing about this little quest line is it's also going to end up giving you another one of these keys. So the very first day, actually, just completing the little mini quest line is going to end up giving you a key, plus you'll be able to end up doing the daily again right after, which is going to give you another key. So on the very first day, you're actually going to be able to end up getting 2 of these. So this is the NPC that actually has the daily, and I'm going to pick it up right now just so you guys can see. Here's the actual reward. We also get some of this currency, which we can end up using at the actual vendor. And we get a key. I'm not going to run it right now. I'm not going to include it in the video. It's just basically kill some mobs and go around and gather this material to actually fill it up and turn in this daily. But I'm going to go head over to the actual little dungeon here. And you'll notice that even though you can actually start this island in tier 2, and you can do the little mini quest line, you can do the daily, and you can start accumulating these keys, you will not be able to actually end up using this key on the little mini dungeon in tier 2. And I'll actually try to enter just so you guys can see. It's kind of nice. I've seen some other images and footage of this island, but it's all been from people who are already at tier 3. You can start this island at tier 2. I'm still in tier 2 right now. I'm actually 1080 at the moment, so I'm getting very close to tier 3, but I'm not. And you can still do the little mini quest line. You can still do the daily. You cannot access the dungeon, though. But the thing is, you need a key in order to enter this dungeon, and it's really not that big of a deal that you can't access the dungeon. As long as you're still able to do the daily to get the key, as soon as you end up getting to tier 3, you'll be able to run this dungeon multiple times, and it's like the work that you were doing on tier 2, it didn't really matter that you weren't tier 3 because you were still getting the limiting ingredient either way. So this is the actual dungeon right here, and you can see that you get more of this currency that you can use on the vendor. Now, of course, because I'm not tier 3, I can't actually see the vendor, but it's going to be right here. I do have an image of all the stuff that you can actually end up getting from the vendor, though, and I want to pull it up right here so you guys can take a look at all the really useful stuff. And I want to just highlight a couple of things that are going to stand out right away. Obviously, towards the bottom there, you can see those Leapstone chests. You can get 50 of both the Life and the Honor Leapstones. And if you're wondering, wait a second, this is a vendor that you can't actually access until you're tier 3. What would the Life Leapstones be any good for? Because those are the tier 2 Leapstones. Obviously, the Honor ones are really good, and that's absolutely something that you're going to want to focus on spending this currency on. But these Leapstone chests are bind to roster. You can end up using your account storage to move these. So basically, this allows you, even though it's not going to lock until tier 3, it's going to allow you to end up getting 50 of the tier 2 Leapstones as well as 50 of the tier 3 Leapstones so that you can end up sending them to an alt and make your alt gearing process a bit easier. So they are bind to roster and not bind to character. You could use your storage to move those. Now, the other thing that I want to focus on is those engraving recipes, especially the legendary engraving recipe. You can end up getting 2 of those. And very importantly, the engraving recipe, the chest is bound, but the engraving recipe that you actually end up getting is going to be unbound. And if you actually take a look at the market, you'll see how unbelievably expensive legendary engravings are, especially legendary class engravings. So let's actually take a look here. And let's just sort by like average price. And you can see that these are selling for 10,000 plus gold. Big money. So you will have the ability to not only get things like Leapstones to help with your own account progression, but if you want to, you can either end up using the engraving recipes that you have from this vendor, or you can end up selling them on the market and make a whole bunch of gold. So it's kind of, you know, pick or choose, one or the other, or a combination of both. There's a lot of flexibility and a lot of really good stuff that you can get here. So that's another thing from the vendor. The item at the bottom is a rapport item. You've got some gem chests as well, which you can end up selling the gems or using them. And the very last thing is at the very top of the list, you can end up getting a legendary Overwhelm. And I'll just show you guys the Overwhelm rune here. So if we open up Go to Guided, this is just a little side note, really useful if you want to look up basically anything that you really don't know a whole lot about and get some more details on it. You can open up the codex, go into the bottom right, clicking on the guide. And so we'll take a look at Overwhelm. And you can see here that it's going to be this legendary Overwhelm. And you can see where you get it from, Anguished Island, which is where we're at from that vendor. And here it is. So bind to roster on pickup, skill rune effect, on hit, 30% extra stagger damage. So that's something else that you're going to have the ability to end up unlocking from this vendor as well. So really useful stuff. This is definitely something that you want to add to your daily checklist now. Even though you're in tier 2, don't worry about the second half of the island. Start racking up these keys right here. And I actually have 2 of them right now. I just took out one for the purposes of the video, but as you can see, I have 2 of them here. So now after I'm done recording, of course, I'm going to do my daily and get my 3rd one and keep on collecting them until I hit tier 3 and then start running this dungeon. So anyway, that's basically going to be it for this video. I hope that it helped out. I hope that you guys enjoyed. And if you did and it helped out, consider leaving a quick like. Consider subscribing to the channel, turning notifications on for more videos like this in the future. I appreciate all the support, everyone. And feel free to check out the Twitch stream, twitch.tv/salt, where I'll be streaming Lost Ark as well as other games. Thanks again, everyone. Have a good one, and until next time.